I guess the main thing that I want to convey here is keeping it real. And it's important to do in terms of both sales and stock. And that's why I chose that little picture on the side there, because we do see what we want to see, and it's easy to, when you have your own business and when you're putting yourself out there through your product, of course you have to have believed in it, because otherwise you wouldn't have done any of it. And because of that passion and because of that vision, it can sometimes be hard to separate. Some of the realisms may be too harsh of a word, but I'll use it for now for speed. When it comes to planning your stock and how much stock to buy, that really needs to start with planning your sales. You need to sit down and determine, what sales do I think I can do over this period, and work back from there to determine how much stock, therefore, do you need to buy. And the quickest, simplest way to do that calculation, again, is using a sell-through. And just, because again, sell-through is such an easy measure to conceptualize. If you want to have 80% of your stock gone over a certain period, then you're aiming for an 80% sell-through. And so you can just do that little calculation to figure out how much do you need to buy. If you overstate your sales expectation, if you are overambitious and too hopeful about how quickly you're going to recover, or what the potential of your sales might be, you risk overstocking your business and creating a whole new problem with your brand new range and your brand new offering. And even though that product might have been really good product and great handwriting, if you just had too much of it, you hurt it. You hurt your brand and you undo a lot of that good. So starting with a realistic sales plan, I think, is absolutely critical. And being realistic, as well, about your stock. We touched on this earlier. When you work through the stock that you own and understanding what that stock represents at different stages, it's vitally important to be honest with yourself about its true value. Because when you come to try and drive your business and make sales and be profitable, if you have not been honest with yourself about the real worth of your stock, you won't have gone and invested in enough new product to drive those sales. You'll get a false read. Your stock will say, I've got enough stock to do the sale, but when you try and do them, it won't happen, or it won't happen profitably because your stock just isn't healthy enough. So you really have to be very, very deliberate when you evaluate that stock. I hope that concept is making sense. Then just taking a balanced approach. So not only looking at sales, but also looking at profit. Turning hollow sales isn't going to cover your expenses in your business. So I do find in a lot of businesses, they might have some little sales reports that they're looking at and some things that they're working through, but it often is only sort of rowing with one oar. And so you're just going in circles. You need to row with both oars. You need to be looking at sales and profit and making decisions based on that. So by profit, I mean margin in those individual items, looking at what is driving your sales and what is bringing home the profitability. And also taking a dollar and unit approach. You want things that are driving the dollars, but you also want to be mindful of what's turning the units for you, and understand the margin dynamic of why. I've touched on strategy. I think it's vitally important. Even though we're in uncertain times, strategy is still really, really important, because it sets that roadmap. It defines where you're trying to go. It gives you, it helps you define priorities. So when you're trying to make choices, and there will be choices to be made, it will help you hold them up against that strategy to go, which one gets the money? If you're not clear on your strategy, when it comes to making choices in your range and other decisions, you'll struggle to make them because you just don't have a benchmark. You just don't have a way to clear away the clutter and zoom in on what really matters. But having a strategy doesn't mean being inflexible, and that's where scenarios and staying fluid is so important. Having lots of little scenarios, lots of little what ifs. Here's my stock profile. If we reopen, then what does that mean? If we reopen a little bit later, what does that mean? If I have delays with getting my stock flowing through in spring, what will that mean? And then staying fluid, doing little bits more often. So if you can bring your stock in maybe in smaller bites, it'll let you preserve your cash for longer. If you have stores allocating your stock, holding back a little bit more than you normally would, so maybe businesses would allocate their stock out on an 80-20 type principle, push out 80%, hold 20% to react to where it's working. Maybe you go with a 70-30 so that you can get a read quicker and respond to that and send the balance out to where it's really working, and not be left with those remainders that are unproductive. Even with markdowns, it might be that you take little tweaks early on and try and get onto that sweet spot of a price and move through your stock quickly, because moving through your stock means turning it back into cash and reinvesting it. And where you have the option to, and I'm not sure whether it's as feasible in your segment of the market, but test and respond. So trialing things, if you get the opportunity to put something out there and get a quick read on it and then go double down, go do it. As much as you can get a little trial going and get little reads before you have to actually commit, bigger volumes is worth doing.